He knew exactly who he was. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He knew at 5 years old what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. We never got to see him realize his dream of being a firefighter. When we were in the hospital, Consumnes River, which is the fire department that he was planning on joining, came into his room on his last day and gave us the honorary firefighter plaque.
On behalf of Consumnes Fire is present this to you guys and let you know that we will forever see Ethan as an honorary firefighter. Through you, we'll look for the strength and courage to overcome the obstacles that are placed before us as we carry out our duty to protect those in need. So we will forever feel that guiding hand of Ethan.
Our son wasn't suicidal. I want the truth. I don't want my son's life to have ended with a lie.
Fresh out of high school, Heather says their family was ecstatic, celebrating her son, Ethan.
He was incredibly excited. He picked up the globe and put it on his back and was like, I've got this, like the world's mine.
At 18, Ethan had a plan. Even writing in a school assignment, he had a lot of options after high school.
He knew he was gonna go play lacrosse. He was getting an apartment with his friends. He was finally gonna get to start to become a firefighter.
But in a matter of days,
our whole world changed.
While Heather and her husband Ian were gone camping, other recent graduates were gathering in their home for a party.
In the middle of the night, somebody came into our tent and woke me up and said, we need to go. Ethan's been hurt.
Ethan had been taken to Kaiser Hospital.
What I was told is my son suffered a series of cardiac arrests. When we got there, he was unresponsive.
She says he was in critical condition, his blood pressure unstable.
And that he was losing oxygen to his brain.
How did a healthy 6'2" athlete get this way?
They were whispering about party games, dares.
But, they say, the story kept changing.
Somebody said he had tried to hurt himself.
Individuals at their house told law enforcement Ethan hung himself from the bathroom shower rail.
He stood higher than most shower rails are built.
He had wrapped a towel around his neck.
It's something that came from a hotel across the street. It wasn't our towel.
When paramedics arrived,
Ethan was in cardiac arrest in our hallway. He wasn't in a bathroom.
And the questions only grew.
We never really got to know who was at this party or not.
Somebody went back to get his things and our house had been cleaned spotless. It smelled of bleach. It was pristine. I remember thinking, like, it's okay because Ethan's gonna wake up and he's gonna tell us what happened. Like, clearly something got out of hand.
But Ethan didn't wake up.
He had no brain activity and that he wasn't ever gonna wake up. We took him off life support.
Nearly 6 years later, the details of his death still don't add up. Because, they say, law enforcement never got those answers.
We finally went downtown and got a copy of the police report. I pulled it out and I looked at it, and it was a total of a page and a half. It said there never was a case.
There never was a case. Here's an incident report from the night that your son died.
Heather and Ian thought there'd be an investigation, but Ethan's death was simply deemed a suicide.
And I just remember the shock of standing there with this one piece of paper and the clerk going, next, and it just saying that my son had died by suicide. And I was outraged I said, I want to talk to a police officer right now.
Over the next few months, Heather met with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office multiple times, recording their conversations and later sharing them with ABC 10. In these recordings, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office admitted their initial response had been poor.
And those patrol officers come out there and they did a shitty job.
The deputies who had responded to Ethan's death had mixed up names in their report, transposing them, they said.
I chalked it up to human error. They transposed names. They did not their finest moment.
Because I know in Sac Sheriff's operating procedures, it says that any death should be treated as a homicide until proven otherwise, but they didn't.
Sacramento County Sheriff's current protocol emphasizes why it's critical to treat every death as a potential homicide, because it states there are no second chances to rectify an incomplete death scene investigation. Still, Heather says the sheriff's office agreed to take another look at Ethan's death. Over 2 months after Ethan died, records show Sacramento Sheriff's investigators got statements from several people who were there the night of the party. Ethan was always super happy and never really got mad, one person said. Another told investigators Ethan was not acting weird and never said anything about being upset or depressed. The only person who suggested Ethan was possibly upset was a firefighter who said these same friends on scene had told him that. This discrepancy only adds to the long list of questions Ethan's family has.
Questions that are just unbelievable that now we have made law enforcement aware of, and they are unwilling to look into.
ABC 10 requested an on-camera interview with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office. They declined. We sent them written questions asking what steps were taken to investigate Ethan's death, why it took months to interview key witnesses, and how the agency justifies its admittedly poor initial response. The Sheriff's Office did not answer our questions. They sent a statement expressing their deepest sympathies to Ethan's family and that the agency conducted a thorough and comprehensive investigation, again concluding Ethan's death was a suicide.
Our investigation is completed. This is not a criminal investigation. This is a suicide.
Heather and Ian say they felt dismissed.
Why aren't you asking these questions?
They say the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office wrote them off as grieving parents.
It really reflects what we're confident the outcome of this case is. It's unfortunate, and many times you don't want to believe it.
Investigators also told Heather,
You got to think about like the positive things that your son did in his life, and like focus on that. You're suspect, making kids suspects in a small community, which is ostracizing yourself and making things toxic.
My son died. My son died at a party. You've written my son's death off as a suicide. What is happening?
What is your message to the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office?
That our child matters. We went to them for help and they told us he wasn't worth it.
Losing a child, they say there's supposed to be no worse pain. Not knowing why you lost your child doubles it.
A death ruled a suicide that doesn't sit right. A family left with questions, no investigators at the scene, and no autopsy. These are not just details of Ethan's case, they also mirror Joanna's, the other case we've been investigating for 2 years. And what we've learned is cases like these may be more common than you think. Experts told us that suspicious deaths, even homicides, can sometimes be overlooked, under-investigated, or worse, hidden.
I didn't realize that this was a huge issue that we needed to pay attention to.
The Alliance for Hope International organization is working to change that. Their nonprofit specializes in these cases, and they found patterns like
Law enforcement reaches a very quick decision that this is a suicide without completing a full investigation.
And other themes.
Law enforcement doesn't talk to family members. And every case that we've handled, there is nothing to indicate that they were suicidal.
Not all, but many of these cases involve domestic violence, like Joanna's.
A domestic violence case is the most likely case to be staged to look like a suicide.
And in those cases, strangulation is not just violence, they say. It's a warning sign.
Stranglers have this ability to kill somebody and leave no marks on their body. It's kind of like suffocation and strangulation are two of those ways. If you shoot somebody, it's hard, really hard, to make that look like suicide.
It's why the Alliance for Hope created a guide for law enforcement and families, outlining what they call 10 red flag factors to help identify and investigate suspicious deaths.
If all 10 of them exist, which they do in Joanna's case, those cases are always a homicide. Always.
ABC 10 found cases that followed these same red flags here in Northern California, including Joanna and Ethan's. And another possible case is being actively investigated right down the road in Davis, California. Plus even more across the U.S., including in Pennsylvania.
Ellen Greenberg was found dead with 20 stab wounds in her Manayunk apartment back in 2011. Her death was ruled a suicide.
In Colorado.
Within the last few minutes, we learned a jury has found Robert Feldman guilty of murdering his wife, Stacy. She died in 2015, though Denver's coroner could not determine how exactly she died.
In Kansas, just this April, the Attorney General's office took Carol Williams' case to trial. Now, 14 years after her death, her case was found to be first-degree murder and staged to look like a suicide. So just how often are homicides being missed or hidden? To find out how many have happened here in California, we filed public records requests with 15 agencies statewide, including the California Department of Public Health, multiple coroner's office, and sheriff's departments, asking how often a death initially ruled a suicide was later changed. Most agencies told us they don't track this at all.
Nobody anywhere is counting hidden homicides.
Dr. Jane Monkton-Smith is trying to. She's a former police officer turned professor and forensic criminologist in the United Kingdom.
So I started to work with families who were coming to me and saying, my loved one has been murdered, in my opinion. The police will not investigate. The police don't believe me. And I just need some help.
Like the team at Alliance for Hope, she noticed patterns in these cases that pointed not to suicide, but suspicious deaths and hidden homicides.
I didn't realize there could be such a huge problem in a democracy, and that's frightening.
So she reached out to every police force in the UK, asking for records of any deaths they considered suspicious but could not prove were homicides.
The estimate is that we have at least 129 undefined.
129 more possible murders in just 1 year in the United Kingdom, she says, hidden in plain sight.
Now you take their population, put it into California's population, or the population of the United States, and literally there could be thousands.
And because many of these cases involve domestic violence,
it would double the current recorded rate of women being murdered in domestic violence in the United States. It would double that number.
If it's happening so much, why don't we know more about it?
There's a kind of an institutional arrogance. We know best. You don't. You're a grieving family. You can't see what, the reality of this situation.
Grief is heavy, and when a death is labeled a suicide, it can come with a painful stigma that families don't want to accept. But Monkton-Smith says that label often becomes a quick conclusion, and once it's made at the scene, there's a reluctance to go back.
The paramedics then tell the hospital that's what happened. And the narrative never changes. And then it gets to the coroner. And the poor family or the people with suspicions, they look like the problem.
That's how the families we've talked to feel, and now they're pushing for change. Next on Hidden Homicides, we follow the fight to fix a system for others.
Experts say there could be as many as 1,200 hidden homicides.
That's the point of passing the law. These kinds of cases get harder over time because the evidence just disappears on you.
We can't bring people back to life again, but we can actually make a difference for the next family and the next family and the next victim and the next victim.